Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fun episode of Career Chats with Aaron. I am your host, Aaron Williams, and today I'm going to be interviewing with
Jennifer Murphy-Pitcher, Project Manager for Healthcare Workforce Regional Sector Partnership.
And Ben Clapp, Business Services Specialist with the Connecticut Department of Labor's Business Engagement Unit.
All right. It's nice to meet both of y'all. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
So, for this episode's icebreaker, it is, what's one professional skill you've picked up that you never expected to use so much?
Oh, I would say networking. It's become, I think, for everybody, the most important skill you can have is knowing how to network, where to network, and then helping to build those relationships with people and your colleagues.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess if I were to say nodding confidently on camera when I'm Googling a term I don't understand in a meeting, that probably is not what you're looking for. So I'd say public speaking, probably.
Public speaking.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, professional skill. For me, I would say leadership. For me, because even outside of the career, whenever I do YouTube, I work with my friends. Sometimes I'm like a leader to them, a director, or I'm also a camp counselor. I was a camp counselor.
Nice.
So for the kids, I always lead them, but also have fun with them as well.
Great. Well, hopefully you can lead us down the right path today.
Thank you for your service.
Okay, yes. Of course. So, the first question is, what's something most people don't know about your job?
It's probably that we don't work in a silo, right? So we have to make sure that the larger, so I do all healthcare, right? Industry leaders within the healthcare sector in the Northwest Connecticut. And so I think when people think of healthcare, they think of doctors, nurses, hospitals, but there's so much more to it. And so ensuring that the small 1 or 2 person practices, home healthcare, that they all get a seat at the table and their voices heard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess the fact that no 2 days are the same, and that's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but the way I'm wired, it's something I require. I've got a very low curiosity threshold in that I find a lot of things interesting quite easily. And I think a really cool thing about my job is I get to talk to local business leaders. I get to learn from them. I get to learn from their mistakes. There's a lot of insights there, and it's not something I take for granted in my job.
Oh, that's really nice. So it's all about the communication part, right?
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
All right. And in every podcast, I tell the audience to write it down. Get your notepad, notebook, get your computer up, type it, write it. Remember all this. There you go. See, that's what you got to do. So, number 2. What originally drew you to the workforce board that you're doing now?
So actually, interestingly enough, my prior job was working with students and being able to help them, expose them to different careers, different industries, try to help them figure out what type of job they might want. And then so with this job was kind of a nice combination of still being able to work with students and still helping them, although it's just, the healthcare industry, still helping them decide what they want to do in life, what path they want to take, right? Being able to still create some of those student experiences, but then also being able to work with the industry leaders and healthcare professionals within our area and helping them figure out how do they collectively work together to solve the issues that are facing their industry. It was really an interesting combination of skills for me.
There you go. So it's like there's a lot of versatility.
Yes.
And yes. That's why I like this. That's why I like to hear versatility. What about you?
Yeah, mine is an interesting story. I don't think a lot of people as a little kid say, I want to be in workforce development when I grow up. It's just not the same as like being a race car driver or a firefighter. So it found me more than I found it. But my background for much of my career had been in sales and human resources, specifically in recruiting. And I was doing that in the private sector for a while, learned some great things. Got to a point in my life where I kind of took an inventory of my values and I wanted to do something a lot more community facing. So I took kind of a 180, went into the human services industry, and then, had some great opportunities there, got to learn from some really intelligent people, and then kind of stumbled into workforce development. And, to me, it's a really natural nexus of all those elements: sales, recruiting, community service. It's awesome. I have to pinch myself to remember, like, oh yeah, I make a living doing this. It's really cool.
No, that's really good. So yeah, thank you. That's a little story right there. Your versatility, skills, and your way to gain into the community. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
For sure.
That's really nice. I'm hopefully now and in the future it still goes well for you too.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
I can tell the passion and the heart you put into the work. Like, that's what I like to see.
Thank you.
Heart.
Yeah, right back at you.
Thank you. So, now can you share a moment that made you feel proud of the work you're doing in the region?
Yeah, I mean, we have so many, but I think one of the proudest is we do a summer internship for high school students. So they get to go to a work site, hospital, or, some of our other partners in the area and do a 20-hour 1-week internship. And so last year we do a little pre-survey, post-survey. What do they learn, right? What knowledge are they gaining? We did a little survey. So we had 70% of our students were interested in the healthcare profession, but weren't really sure what they wanted to do, right? Yeah. Within that industry. And after the summer internship, 85% of them come out saying, all right, I mean, they're high school kids still, so keep that in mind, but that they knew what department they were interested in, where they really wanted to pursue. And some of them even learned that they didn't want to be in healthcare, which is okay, right? That's what this whole thing is for. And so just watching, I would go visit the students during the internship and watching them really doing the day-to-day, really entrenching themselves and learning. It was really exciting. It almost made me want to be a high school student again. Almost.
Almost.
I graduated high school like a couple years ago, so.
Oh gosh.
Making me feel old here. Come on.
People think I'm like in my mid-20s, so which I don't blame them. But
well, you've lived a good life for someone that young. I'll tell you that. Right. Going to London, doing voiceovers. I don't know.
Quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. What about you, Ben?
It's interesting. Sometimes it's those little things that actually kind of stick with you longer. And I think, part of it is just having a really empathetic approach. We, one way or another, we're working with people looking for work and we're working with businesses looking for people. And, normally that doesn't happen in a vacuum. You're interfacing with a little bit of A and a little bit of B. And I think, from that job seeker perspective, it's just showing them like, look, you got this. I think for a lot of people, when you're looking for a job, it can feel like a marathon of denial. You get a lot of no's. Sometimes you don't hear anything. And I think people need to realize that that's not necessarily a poor reflection on them, that, there is opportunity. A door doesn't get closed without a window being left open. And then I think on the employer side of things, it's realizing that, we have this whole landscape of resources. And to Jen's point earlier, we work really hard to be really cohesive and to reduce any fatigue for that employer. So when an employer comes to us with a certain need and we can work with other state agencies or other training programs to kind of get them what they need, that's the gold dust. That's why we do it.
Gold dust. Yes. I like that. Gold. I like that. Gold dust.
Yes.
That's really nice. Now, here's a little question I got for both of you. Has there been like someone in particular that inspired you to do what you want to do?
I'll let Ben take this one first.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'll take it.
Let me think.
This one's actually kind of personal for me. So today actually marks 5 years to the day that my dad passed away. this morning.
Oh, sorry, Ben.
Hey, as he said, no one ever gets out alive. But this man thoroughly enjoyed what he did for a living, and he was a boomer, so I'm going to date him here. But, this was pre-digital age, so he'd be up in the morning with his Franklin planner. He'd be super pumped, probably overly caffeinated, plotting out his day. And then, we'd be having dinner, at the end of the day talking, and he'd just talk about, I went on a great sales call today, and I met this architect, and, I connected with this person, and my gosh, what a smart woman I met. And he just loved it. And, to see that, I think it's rare, but I think to understand that sense of purpose and that sense of like, hey, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but there's a phrase that often gets bandied about. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I don't buy into that, because if you have a bad day at work, you're left thinking you're the problem. And I think bad days are a normal thing as long as you have less of them than you have good days. So my take is, if you love what you do, you're going to have a little bit more grit. You're going to have a little more resilience. You're going to get back on that horse when you get knocked off. And, I think my dad really showed me a good model of that. And, it's helpful to enjoy what you do. And I would say that's probably something that really sticks out in my mind and gets me fired up to go to work every day.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I don't know that I have one specific person, and I don't really know how I can follow Ben on this answer. But I think all of my experiences, right? So I started my career a long time ago, 30 years ago, where I worked at a GE, right, which is a very corporate environment, very strict on how you do things, where you do things. Then I went to a nonprofit, which is much more flexible and open. And now I'm sort of at this job where it's kind of both of those things combined, right? What I think I learned the most, though, is from doing things that I really hated, and not having. I did have one really great boss who was very patient with me, learning Excel of all things. Like, she was a master, I hated it, and now I'm the person, right, that helps everyone with Excel. So I do think, answering this question in a very long-winded way, taking all of those experiences together, my advice for people would be to figure out what you don't like early on and try to incorporate more of what you're good at and what you like into the job that you have. Because if you do that, you're going to be really good at what you do, and you're going to be recognized and noticed for it.
Good advice.
Yeah.
I know I'm the host. I'm not trying to get directed to me.
No, of course.
My inspiration of what I love to do is two of my favorite voice actors of all time is Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, the voices of Optimus Prime and the voice of Megatron. So, and what I love about these two is that, and Peter Cullen actually said this in the convention: if you love what you do, you won't have to work a day in your life. Well, that's not always true, but seeing these two, because they've been in the industry for like 40 or 50 or 60 decades.
Wow.
And they still do it. And they have so much fun doing it. And you could tell like there's a lot of passion for these two, and it doesn't matter what your age is. They still, if they still want to do it, they still do it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course their skills and vocal versatility, I was like, and because I started getting interested in voice acting a little bit, and then watching all these interviews and conventions with these actors, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
You got the bug.
That's what I want to do, and I'm hoping someday I get to meet them and just say, thank you for your heart and passion. Thank you for inspiring others, and myself included, on doing what we love to do.
That's an awesome story.
So, that is a great story.
Yeah.
And
so I'm sandwiched between two good stories.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yours was good.
Yeah.
You get good advice.
Come on now.
And there was this. Now the character of Optimus Prime from Transformers. Definitely.
I've dabbled.
Could not say I do.
Right. But one of the most beautiful stories about an actor and a character was when Peter Cullen. It was back in 1984 when he auditioned for Optimus. He lived with his brother Larry, and he was a Marine in Vietnam. So he was like, "Hey Peter, where you going?" "I'm going to audition." "What are you auditioning for?" "I'm going to be a truck." "A truck?" well, he's a hero truck. And then he said this, well, Peter, if you're going to be a hero, be a real hero. Don't be those Hollywood pretenders that scream and try to be tough. Be strong enough to be gentle. So now, when Peter Cohen does Optimus, it's not, I am Optimus Prime. It's, I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. That story stays with me every time when I think about the connection between a character and an actor. It's like, it's so beautiful. And that's why whenever I play Optimus in YouTube, I love playing him because he is a real hero. He represents what a real hero is supposed to be. The integrity, dignity, and courage. I just love that. So.
Well, I love that you have found what you're passionate about.
Yes.
It's like my dream, right? Everyone to find there. I love it. It's great.
And that's what I mean. That's what we need. We need that heart. We need that passion. Yeah. So that's what we need in our workforce.
Well, there's no dress rehearsals.
Yeah,
you know, might as well enjoy it.
Exactly. Now here's a little funny question.
No pun intended.
If you had a theme song that played every time you entered a meeting, what would it be?
All right. So I, as I said before, have stressed about this question for 2 days. I had so many completely inappropriate answers that I knew I could not use. And today, driving here, I put on the radio, which I never do. I never listen to the radio, always listen to podcasts. And a song came on, and it was called Like Jenny.
Like Jenny.
And it was by Jenny, right? The name of the singer is Jenny. And go listen to it because it is exactly a theme song that you would want, especially if her name's Jenny. So here we go.
Okay.
All right, Ben.
So I'm going to answer your question with a couple questions.
Okay.
Is this in slow motion? Is there a fog machine? What kind of like dramatic effect?
It's a business meeting, Ben.
Okay. You mean your business meetings aren't like that? I like Jen. I perseverated on this greatly, and there were several that came to mind, but I think the one I like the most right now is 10th Avenue Freeze Out by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. One, I just like the melody. I like the horn section at the beginning. Two, I like the story in the song. Bruce Springsteen's a really great storyteller, and it's about kind of having your back against the wall. And many people have said it's kind of totemic of the band's history and them kind of just trying to make it in the industry. And I think, we can all relate to that. There's something very human in kind of having your back against the wall. But I love it. So yeah, that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. I'm just imagining right now with those songs playing.
Yeah, they're bangers,
real bangers.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. Now, working across multiple organizations and stakeholders must be challenging. So, what's your secret to keeping everyone alive?
Threatening them? No, I'm just kidding. I do think that the biggest piece of it is being organized, having your day completely mapped out. So like on Monday, I map out my whole week, and I write it in a notebook, but then I also go into my physical calendar and plot out my days by time. Because if I didn't do that, then I would forget, right, what I needed to do. And then I think the biggest thing is sending emails. Some people read them, some don't. So I usually send an email and I say, and if I don't hear from you today, I'm going to call you tomorrow. And that usually gets people to answer me because the only thing people hate more than answering emails is answering their phone. So, and then I typically hold, we try to do biweekly meetings, right? Committee meetings, because even if they can't attend the meeting, they're like, oh, I better get my stuff done before I get called out. So I think just visibility, it's really, I don't think people understand the amount of detail and organization you need to facilitate, right? And that's what you're doing. You're a facilitator. And I honestly, it is something that I've had to learn to do over the years because it is not, I think we all have like our personal preferences and like, again, what we're good at. I am not good at detail and organization at all, but I have to force myself in these situations to be.
Okay.
Sometimes I hear the phrase herding cats. And, I think
one.
Okay, nice.
You've never heard that before?
No,
I can't
Oh
take
my
credit for it,
goodness,
but I think a lot of my role is relationship management, and I think with that comes managing expectations. I think there's a sweet spot because one of the North Stars of my career, if you will, is under promise, over deliver. If you're not sure if the delivery is going to take 5 days, tell them it's going to take 10 days. And when it takes 6, you're a hero.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you don't want to undersell. You don't want to devalue what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And I think, when human capital is 85% of a company's value, workforce development is really hard to underestimate. So I think it's managing relationships. I think it's having the foresight to reach out even when you don't need something, because I think it's pretty transparent when you're reaching out just because you need something. And I think listening, some of the best advice I ever got was you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, use them proportionately.
Yes, I agree.
That's great.
Because listening and communication is like really important, especially when you go to work. So yeah,
100%.
100%. All right. Now I got a little funny question for both of you as well.
Okay.
How would you describe your personality in color? Like, what kind of color represents who you are as a person?
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
I'm like the rainbow.
I mean,
Bright is the bright neon, like flashing.
Yeah, we can count that.
Yep.
Rainbow.
I like to think I'm a little bit of a mood ring. It kind of depends on when you get me.
Yeah.
So it can depend on the day, it can depend on the hour, it can depend on the meeting I just came out of or the meeting I'm about to go into. But I think part of being a pro is, being credible, being yourself, but also knowing that, you have to maintain a certain level of calm. And, it's kind of like you go to a baseball game and you can only afford the cheap seats. Well, if you act like you belong in the nice seats, maybe people won't notice you're in the wrong seats. So I think just keeping it composed, rolling with the punches, and just remembering to have fun. And we're in a very human focused business. So I think it's very emotive, and, just kind of keeping people light and keeping things upbeat is really critical.
Good. Okay. All right. And final question. What's a common misconception about workforce development or sector partnerships you'd love to clear up?
Okay. So I guess maybe this idea that, this is a really top-heavy bureaucratic landscape. It's not. One of the things I was really pleasantly surprised by when I came to the agency is, there's not a lot of bureaucracy, which is really nice to see. And I think one of the things that I think is really cool is that we can react at the speed of business, not the speed of human services. No one I work with, present company included, gets up in the morning and says, I can't wait for an employer to feel like they're mired in a bureaucratic mess, or I can't wait for a job seeker to feel like they're in line at the DMV. And yet sometimes in spite of our best efforts, that's the feeling. So I think being able to kind of take that apart and put that on its head and still kind of keep it fundamental to like a human connection. No one, people say like, oh, I can't believe you answered your phone at the Department of Labor. And I'm like, yeah, of course I answered my phone. I'm here to help you. Like, I'm in public service. So I think just kind of being proactive, taking action, and just kind of being a part of the solution one person at a time. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, you got that. Good. You answered it. You answered it right. There you go.
Okay, fair enough.
Perfect.
I don't know why I keep letting Ben go first. So I think the misconception, at least for me when I started, was why are competitors going to work together, right? Why would they give their secret sauce to somebody else? Why would they share resources? And I think, the reason that we've answered, through this whole process is they're stronger together. Not one individual company has the ability to solve the whole industry, right? But together they can solve the issues that are coming through their industry. And so it's been very powerful. I'm, excited to see what other RSPs come up. I think, the state is really behind it, right? So it's another misconception, I think. that the state really supports this work, right? The governor has a workforce council. They're all in to help support the businesses. So it's really great.
That's good. Togetherness, like that's
Yeah.
another important thing.
Yeah.
You're not alone in this.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Like it's like that song, "Come Together Right Now," like that.
Nice.
All right. Well, Ben, Jenn, and we're not talking about that, Ben and Jenn. We're talking about. Thank you for joining this podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Oh my God, it's been so fun. This is what you've not checked off one of my bucket list items. So here we go.
Good.
Yes.
I'm glad you had fun.
Thank you.
And I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. Thank you all for listening. And remember, keep learning, keep growing, and hold on to your dreams. I'll see you all next time.